Hey everybody, it's Matthew Reinhardt. It's today I get to talk with an artist I really admire and who I got to collaborate with on this incredible book, Garbage Pail Kids, the ultimate pop-up yearbook. And it's so cool. And his name is Joe Simko. He is amazing. Joe Simko is the king of Garbage Pail Kids, at least to me. And he's been dreaming up dumpster dolls for Topps Trading Card Company since 2009. I think that's around the date. And he continues to guide the Garbage Pail Kids into new media like animation and books. And he makes artworks for all different kinds of things like Topps Wacky Packages. He's the creator of Serial Killers Trading Cards and the Sweet Rot children's book series. He's the co-creator of Craniacs, and he's made art for musicians like Guar, Metallica, Sonic Youth, The Misfits, and more. Like, he's done a shitload, and it's amazing what he does. It's hard for me to list everything. So if you want to check out his website, joesimko.com, and there's a link down below. If you want to see more of his work and learn more about him and his art, as well as you can check him out on Instagram and the TikTok at joesimko_NYC. He's a nonstop creative machine with an artistic career that continues to explode like atom bomb skullcap. Joe, hello. Thank you for coming
Hey,
and talking to me today.
hey, Matthew, how you doing? Yeah, thanks for having me. It's exciting.
Thank you. It's great because, like when we're working on these books, I'm just happy to be able to collaborate with another artist. And there are times when I don't get to really actually connect as well as I felt like I did with you when we were working on this one. It was such a fun back and forth. Typically, I'm a dictator when it comes to working with other people. Sometimes with other artists, like I'm always like, draw this, you need to draw this. But with you, like I felt like it was very much a back and forth. And it's fun to be able to change things when someone has a vision for something. And you definitely did. And it was just, this was probably the funniest book I've ever been able to work on. And it was because of you and your imagination and your artwork and everything. So, and Garbage Pail Kids. I mean, they're just fun in general. So I'm gonna start asking you some questions.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to first start out is to tell me about your artistic life as a kid.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. So as a kid, I would draw, as most kids probably do. At some point, I guess kids kind of fall out of it. I just kept going at it. My earliest memories as an artist would be of myself drawing in front of the television, the Saturday
Mm-hmm.
morning cartoons. This is like in the early 80s, like 1980 or 81.
Mm-hmm.
A little before VCRs, or at least before we had a VCR, so I couldn't like pause the character and draw from the screen. I was actually waiting for that character to pop up on screen, continue drawing. If it's a Papa Smurf or Optimus Prime, like okay, oh,
Mm-hmm.
cut to another scene. I gotta wait. Okay, there he is again. Okay, that oh, there's that line. I gotta draw that line. That's my earliest memories of drawing from the things that I loved. Anything that came out in the 80s, cartoon wise, and then toy wise, basically pop culture in general. Um, as I continued to develop it, I had parents. I was fortunate enough to have parents that encouraged it. My father would bring home stacks of just blank copy paper, like blank computer paper for me to draw on. He would take those sketches that I did and to his work and run off Xerox copies, like those really horrible black and white, crude Xerox copies. And I wound up making comic books and selling them to the kids in school. So
Oh,
in
that's awesome.
fifth grade, I was making my own Garbage Pail Kid comic books and selling them to kids in school for like 50 cents. Um, and that's when I was feeling like, okay, now like this thing that I love is like this passion is who I am. This is what I am. And so yeah, and then it just circled up all the way through high school and into college, going to the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan,
Mhm.
and yeah, continued on from there.
That's amazing that you had like parents that supported it. I mean, I did too, and it was definitely they were always proud of it, um, to a certain extent. But there was like, yeah, but aren't you going to do something else? So
Where's
what
the
an amazing.
where's the real? Well, is I guess so. It's a generational thing because I would say that my grandfather, on my mother's side, was from very old school, like World War II vet. Stormed the beaches of Normandy, like,
Mhm.
but just very older and in his ways, and just like did not see cartooning as a career. Like people don't do this for a living.
Mhm.
guys that were the artists in the Syndicate, the newspaper, the Sunday morning newspapers, like Jim Davis, Garfield, and like who are millionaires, like
Yeah.
franchise creators. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a hobby. They have a real job somewhere else, like in their mindsets. The elderly,
Yeah.
the 2 generations ago, I would say. So
Did you have any artists in your family? Like, or
no, I mean, my father, he dabbled. He's an engineer. He's retired now, but he worked
Mhm.
for the state of New Jersey in the Department of Transportation. But before that, I guess he was trying to dabble in architecture.
Mhm.
But that was more mathematical and very clinical with line work, and so he was more into the engineering side than the artistic side. But no, I can't pinpoint any
So
artistic.
you were the lone wolf
I
in
guess
that
so.
whole, yeah,
I
because
guess
in
so.
my family, I had one uncle who was he was a he was a photorealist painter. His name was John Casseri. He did very well, actually. He painted, um, he loved women. He loved the ladies, okay? And he painted women's midriffs, usually in lingerie or whatever, especially like his big time was like late 70s, early 80s. They were huge paintings of women. He loved the research.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
and let me tell you, but they were amazing because they look like these giant photos, but and he would do these giant things, and like, big celebrities would buy his stuff. And he would
Right.
always tell us, don't go after being an artist. It's too hard, because he didn't really have success until later in his life. And he also said some kind of not so great things, like, you're never an artist until you're dead. Which I completely, that is not what I believe at all.
Right.
Um,
Well, it
he,
depends on the art. It depends on the
yeah,
style. It sounds like he's in the fine art
he
world.
was in fine arts, and he was a professor for many years and saw many people not go anywhere. And he didn't succeed until much later. So he had a much different, he didn't think that that art was anything else but fine art. And I myself didn't, I always like loved making, comics and things like that. Um, but I went in different directions. So
Yeah.
I love
No,
that. I love
it,
that you
it,
were
it,
so
it
thoughtful at that time.
absolutely. It's funny because when going to the School of Visual Arts here in Manhattan, I majored in cartooning, which
Hmm.
is a real major. I have a degree in cartooning.
No,
But
but that's a great school.
oh, absolutely. Our professors we had guys from Marvel, DC, Mad Magazine, Joe Orlando. Um, this was before my time. There was Art Spiegelman, Mark Newgarden. But when I was going in the late '90s, we would have guest speakers in the cartooning world, independent comic books, and they would tell us this: "Don't go into comic books." They're telling a room full of cartooning majors, "Don't get into comic books. Don't do it. It's not worth your time. You're not going to make any money." Um, so clearly, I mean, it's you have to have a real passion for getting into it if you want to, and but yeah, the fine art world can be tricky too. I mean, I dabbled and I took stuff. When you go to school of visual arts or any art school or any school in general, you got to have a whole wealth of majors or have to take a humanity, a bunch of just different courses to enrich
Hmm.
yourself. So I took sculpting and photography and film and fine art. And so I really appreciate abstract expressionism style art, but also cartooning and straight up just commercial illustration,
Hmm.
advertising.
Hmm.
So I love combining kind of both those things. Um, so there is work out there. It's just it's you got to find what it is that you love to do in the art world. I mean, this is what I get approached by parents who come up to me at conventions, if their son or daughter is into art, and like, is it worth going to college? Is it worth going to school for art? And you know, clearly I know people who have been successful without ever going to college. Um, and I would say if you have the means to and you can go, I would say it's worth it because not only does it train a discipline in doing it, but you're surrounded by obviously the social aspect of being around like-minded people who influence you more than maybe a professor could. Um, and then you're kind of networking without even knowing it. You're making
Yeah.
contacts with people who go and get in careers and jobs and get you started on something.
And you're exposed, I think, as well. What you just said before is that you're exposed to all these different types of things as well that you have to take. You have to take sculpting, or you have to take this, and you have the opportunities to do those things, and that might be the thing
Yeah,
that gets you.
yeah.
And I'm a little jealous because my undergraduate was not art school, but I did go for graduate school. I studied biology in my undergraduate, and
Wow. Cool.
So, but I always did art classes on, like I always had those other classes to kind of to make me happy.
Yeah.
My parents wanted me to be a doctor, so I was pre-med, but also did art. But later on, that changed. Everything changed.
Now your
And they,
surgery is paper cutting.
I know, right? You would not like. I always thought like that you wouldn't want me as a like. I think at the time I wanted to be a plastic surgeon, and I was like, you wouldn't want me as a plastic surgeon because I'd probably want to put a third eye or like horns on you or something, So it probably wouldn't be the best thing for me. So you went into your educational background. So you went to the School of Visual Arts, right,
Yes.
in
Yep.
New York City,
Yep.
and I took some classes there. It's a great school. There's so the being exposed. You're right in New York City, where all these, professional artists, a lot of them are,
Mhm.
or the companies that employ them are
Yeah.
there. It's like the best place, I think, in the world coming up.
Yeah.
At least at that time, that's the place to be.
Yeah.
I think it still is, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
No, absolutely. It's funny. I think I went there just recently because I had to do a meeting uh, near the school with a with the Garbage Pail Kid animated series that we're working
Yeah.
on here for HBO Max. Met up with one of the animators, and he's from Australia, and he stayed at the old dorms that I used to
Oh
live
my
in.
God.
So but it's not the dorms anymore. I was like, what happened here? They turned it into this whole grand, like, not a hostel, but like a very inexpensive, beautifully designed place for people from out of the country to come and stay. And it's all young kids staying there. And like when I was staying there, it was a
Oh,
dilapidated dorm that was a combination of like these young punk artists and super extreme old people that were living there because it was like some
oh
sort
my God.
of old housing unit that SBA had bought out for
It's
dorm.
it is amazing how much New York has changed. I mean, I was at Pratt around that same time, Pratt Institute in Brooklyn. I it wasn't. I never thought it wasn't safe. It was safe. I mean, it was
Mhm.
a rougher time,
Yeah.
but we had a great time, and it was it was a pretty messed up looking buildings that we lived in, and you just
Yeah.
did it. Like I remember sharing a dorm because we were grad students. It was a little bit different. You didn't have to have like sleep in the same room as your roommates,
Okay.
and we had. I think we had two separate rooms, but my room was the main open room. So I had to like build a wall.
Right.
But it had to be temporary and it had to, so I remember building like a giant canvas and painting this coelacanth. At the time, do you know what a coelacanth is? It's a
Oh,
giant, it's this prehistoric fish
okay.
um, that they found that exists still like back in the early 20th century. And it looks like it's a missing link fish. It's not. But anyways, at the time I was obsessed with like things like that. But to be able to do that kind of stuff in this this not so great room,
It's just, you get
it
it.
was always inspiring being in those
Yeah,
kind of places.
yeah, exactly. That's what it is. It gives you inspiration.
Yeah, yeah. You make the best of whatever is handed to you. Okay, so you went to school, and then like, were you working as an artist during your time at school, or what was like your first job
Okay,
as a
so
professional artist?
yeah, I was, yes, through the community school billboard, not even an online message board of like where to look for jobs and things like that. I got work doing designs for ties, men's neckwear. So it's a lot of boring diamonds and paisleys and stripes, and they had to be very clean. I was painting by hand though, acrylic paint,
Mm-hmm.
actually watercolor. These little swatches. That lasted a couple years and it was fine. It was an outlet. Eventually, they handed me the Tabasco sauce account. So I got to do some cartoony, like alligators, like pouring Tabasco sauce on each other.
Oh,
Like,
that's fun.
just like
That's
weird
fun.
scenes, like aliens, discovering Tabasco sauce, like the Greys, so I was getting a little more cartoony work.
Yeah.
Um, and then through somebody who just worked again, without trying to be networking, you're just being around, surrounded by people like that. A guy who knew somebody who worked at our company had an opening at a storyboard company to do storyboards for commercials, for television commercials. This
Mm-hmm.
is like a high end. This is like an in-house uh, art studio where a bunch of artists work, and so I, applied for that, got that, and I worked there for 3 years until the whole company went under. The company was around since like the late 70s, and I got the job in 2000. And then the company just like after like 9/11 happened, and
Yeah.
just started working digitally, like, computers were, 2003, in 3 years, it like all went down.
Yeah.
But it was that was truly the greatest feeding ground and teaching ground and life lessons in art for me than anything. Coloring with like, I don't know if you can see some of these AD chart pack markers I have here.
Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
this is what we used in our storyboarding classes. Almost
Yep.
every color of the rainbow. Um,
Hmm.
and we worked on commercials. Every commercial that was shown on TV in like that time. It was Coca-Cola, Capital One. What's in your wallet
Yeah.
with
Oh,
Bavarian
I remember.
Subway, Olive Garden, Stouffer's Pizza. So it was like really cool to not only be working on it, then get to see the commercials 6 months later. But really got a lot of lessons and skills based in working there.
Well, that really informs like your storytelling, like visual storytelling, and in especially doing storyboarding and for commercials, because you have such a short amount of time to be able to impart some some
Yeah,
sort of story.
yeah.
And oftentimes I like what I feel like with a lot of your Garbage Pail Kid work, and some of the other stuff too as well. There's so much storytelling in just one shot.
Well, that's what it is. Garbage Pail Kids, we get not only do we get a writing, I'm sorry, an art fee, we get a writing fee too,
Hmm.
because you're like, well, there's no words on it, but there's a joke that we're telling, so we are
Yeah.
technically writing Garbage Pail Kids. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of what, again, going back to School of Visual Arts, is like, that's going to comic books and cartooning, is you get this extra teachable moment of being able to learn how to write too.
Hmm.
I guess you could say you can be writing through fine art or illustration, one-off series of paintings, but the comic book or the sequential type of imagery is heavy on storytelling and writing. Like, they teach you how to write in a television or movie format, mostly television for comic books, because it's like
Hmm.
A, B, C plot lines. The A story is the lead. There's a subplot
Yep.
B. Once the A story is completed, the B story comes up to the A, and then a new story emerges underneath. It's almost like we were told it's almost, you can compare it to like the soap operas.
Oh, it is
Because
completely soap
they're
opera.
ongoing, never ending. There's always the next, and it's just consistently a cycle going on. So
It's soap operas in capes and tights. That's
yeah, yeah.
all it is.
The
But
wrestling, yeah. Well, wrestling is
the same thing. It's the
yeah.
same thing. But that's amazing. That's what like an incredible experience. Well, we all have those. I think different artists have those experiences like early on, where you're just the an experience kind of sets you off on
Mm,
that journey forward with your career. Like it really, and you have those places where you just learn a ton of stuff, either from a person or that experience that moves you ahead. I mean,
yes.
I myself, there were a couple moments where I was just thrown into the fire, like doing some of my earlier books, and I just had to figure it out. And you
Yeah,
you just do it right there.
yeah,
So
true. Just
that's
keep doing it.
incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you say that working at that company was the place where that tipped you to the next level into your career, or
I would say, well,
was there a
yeah.
specific project that like tipped you over the edge?
Well, okay. So it's, like anything in life, it's just like this one leads to this one leads to this one.
Hmm.
I never got the big, boom.
Yeah.
um, so while I was working at the storyboarding company, living in New York City, let me step back. While working at the storyboarding company, basically working in advertising, forced us to work very, very late hours, sometimes till midnight, sometimes till 3 in the morning, working those late hours. Um, I was into music, I was into punk, rock. There was a lot of clubs around in the city. After I finished the job, I'd go out to see shows, love
Yeah.
the shows. I eventually, just caught myself, engaging with some of the bands, and wound up doing posters for them. Very on the inexpensive, cheap,
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
getting exposure to that. So now I'm like, okay, I got to do my job, which was commercial storyboarding, but the fun stuff I like to do, weird, wacky band art for
Yeah.
local bands in the city. Um, Once the company of the advertising company of Storyboards went under, I got to basically force myself to work full time at home, and just from all the band work that I had already been building up. helped me to get some acknowledgement, some bigger acts, some signed labels, the Vans Warped
Mhm.
Tour, which was that huge traveling Warped Tour that
Yep.
across the country all throughout the 90s and early 2000s. Um, so that led to just higher pays, a little bit more of a higher profile. So I would say the storyboarding work challenged me and taught me how to add color
Yeah.
and speedness to my art, and to make things look for commercial purposes to be accessible to a mainstream audience. And then the punk rock style posters was the way for me to be more authentic to me and genuine with
Yep.
weird or grotesque, but learn how to make it accessible or mainstream from the storyboarding commercial. If any of that makes sense.
No, it totally does. I mean, we all
So
need different outlets, right?
yes, I love the fact that, because growing up I just was obsessed with, I was anti-mainstream,
Hmm.
whatever Hollywood films were as independent horror films, indie comic books. But at the same time, of course, some of my favorite films are like The Lost Boys, or
Yeah.
E.T., my childhood favorite film. All these major Hollywood type films, and so I love combining those aspects of something very cult, independent, subversive with something that can be accessible to a mainstream audience. And I think I found it with Garbage Pail Kids at an
Yeah.
early age, and not knowing that Garbage Pail Kids was coming back in the 2000s, kind of completely forgetting about them, that I even collected them. I was working on my own serial killers trading card series, not the
Hmm.
murderer serial killers. I always have to say it's serial
Yep.
brands
Serial.
with
Yes.
horror films. Because I say again, now I say we, myself and my wife, it's our company that we created
Yeah.
to put these out. This is actual trading cards, people in here, not serial. um, we launched it out, did this big campaign, sent it out to like all these newspapers throughout the country. Serial killers, we have launch, and we didn't get any word back from anyone. And I was like, this is like, we sold really well, but we weren't getting any press. And then I realized we got one guy wrote back to us, hey, my boss, my editor told me I can write about this for our newspaper, but just so you know, I'm not really into serial killers and all that stuff. I was like, oh, they all mistook it for being like, even though I spelled it with a C
Yeah.
in the emails, I think a lot of them mistook it for, like John Wayne Gacy and Charles Manson type stuff. So of course
It's
nobody
like, did you
would write
look at
about them.
it? It's like, did you look at it? Did you even
Well,
look
yeah,
at it?
that too. So, but yeah, leading to that. So when I was doing the serial killers, I sent it to the Tops Company as
Hmm.
something maybe they wanted to put out and release, and they actually were intrigued by it and interested. And they said, let's we just brought back Garbage Pail Kids. Let's test you out. I mean, they pay me, but test you out on some Garbage Pail Kids. Are you interested in that? And it's weird. I mean, yes, of course, but I wasn't like jumping up in my seat because I wanted them to do my thing. So,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, I'll get that out of the way. And then ultimately, it was probably for the best they didn't publish my serial killers, because I kind of kept it myself, and I get to, I didn't have anyone telling me how
Yeah.
to edit it and release it. Um, and then I got this, and I've been with Tops and Garbage Pail Kids since, as you said, since 2009. So a
Yeah.
long time. Yeah.
I
And
mean, you really are shaping it. So now too, as well, because you're doing so much work, like
right. Yeah.
developing for possible animated shows, and you've done stories for all these things. You work with R.L. Stein. Like
No,
that
yeah.
is now, you said you used to draw Garbage Pail Kids comics when you were a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it came out in 85, I would have been 1986. So yeah, I'm like 11 or 12
Oh
when
my gosh.
I'm drawing them. I don't have them with me on hand, but I do have them
Yeah.
like buried in a box in a closet
Oh, I'm
of like very crude drawings. Um, and so it's kind of like what my sketch cards look like for when I'm coming up with concepts and things like that now. Um, but yeah, so yeah, that was, I was doing all this, but I want to say that I just want to say, like, so I'm one of the current artists. There are three other main guys. There's Brent
mhm,
Engstrom, Dave
mhm,
Gross, and Smokin' Joe, another Joe.
mhm.
And then there's another guy who floats in once in a while, Neil Camera. A lot of these guys, we do wacky packages as well. But myself, Dave, Brent, and Smokin' Joe, we're the main roster for the Garbage Pail Kids series for the past like decade now. But I've had the fortunate advantage of being able to do these these licensing products that you and I worked on, the pop-up book.
Yes.
Ira Friedman, who was the head, he's the former head now of licensing. He was vice president at Topps for 30 years.
Yeah.
I worked directly with him on all the licensing thing. Garbage Pail Kids cereal. That was one of my favorite GPK projects ever. So outside of the cards of Garbage Pail Kids, I get to talk to all these licensing partners and toy companies and Netflix. We did Stranger Things, Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah.
They turned into figures. Yeah, it goes on and on.
It's weird when you work, like I've done a lot of like licensing different characters and things, but like once you get into that and you start to understand that language of it's a different sort of world as an illustrator or artist or whatever. People ask me like, oh, how do you make those relationships? And you just like it's very much snowballs. And when you're associated with certain things and you start to understand, like there are certain things you can do, there's certain things you can't do. And you because I work with so many, from Disney to, we just recently did something with Mojang with Minecraft. We did some work with Pokemon.
By the way, I saw that and I'm getting that. I got to get that book for my son.
I'll get you one. Don't worry. I'll send you. I got a bunch.
That's all he's talking about. He's 7 years old and that's his
I'll send him a signed one. There's some that I am not as interested in, but it's rare. Like most of the time I'm really into all of it. It's hard for me. Like I'm an old Star Wars fan. And so Star Wars and Transformers are my two main things. And I'm a collector and all that sort of stuff. Now, do you collect anything? Are you a collector?
Not now. No, I mean, just I'm given all the product of Garbage Pail Kid stuff that I'm involved with.
But
like,
you don't.
I have all like the bank and
yeah.
But yeah, I would say cereal boxes maybe.
Yeah.
I'm in the hundreds of that, but they're all.
Oh,
flat.
really? I'm curious. So what was the coolest cereal box that you've gotten? Because I sort of know my cereal stuff from the past.
Yeah, I mean, I should say I'm not. There are people out there that are heavier and stronger.
Oh, I'm sure. There always are. There always are. You don't want to even know about some of my friends who are Transformer collectors. They are like they know so much. Some of the stuff. I have one friend in particular. He knows so much. He sends me pictures of things that I didn't even know could ever exist.
Right.
So like, I always know there's always a bigger dog.
There's always a bigger dog. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to interrupt for just a minute because, we got to pay the bills, and I got a little message from our sponsor, Inside Editions. Inside Editions is the publisher I've been working with for almost 10 years now. I've published pop-up books with them. I've published papercraft books with them, and it's just been a great partnership. I have my own publishing imprint, which sounds really cool, right? Reinhardt Pop-Up Studio. We're doing all kinds of cool stuff. This year, we've got so many books and different products coming out. First up, we've got Harry Potter, a pop-up guide to the creatures of the wizarding world. This is a monstrous book that is appropriate for all the monsters in the wizarding world and all the different creatures. You got everything in here from mermaids to dragons to pixies. There's like huge acromantula, and if you pull the tab, it comes out and jumps at you. There's interactive pops, there's small pops, there's big ones. There's a huge Hungarian horntail, even a big dragon that pops out of the top of Gringotts at the end. This was so fun to create, and I'm so lucky to be able to play within the Harry Potter Wizarding World universe. So check it out. This is the third in my Harry Potter trilogy of pop-up books. So get out there. If you're a Potterhead, here it is. And the other book that just actually came out last week is Minecraft, the official pop-up. So this was a really tough book to be able to create because I am terrible at Minecraft, but this is a great guide to starting Minecraft, and it's like the experience of playing Minecraft. There's all kinds of interactive pull tabs on different pop-ups, and you got to look out for all the different monsters and creepers and everything within, and there's a big dragon at the end because dragons are fun. this was an incredible book to collaborate with Mojang and make this book about Minecraft. And don't forget also, there are a bunch of other books that have come out this year. These are great presents for the holidays. Paws, Claws, and Snapping Jaws, a pop-up book of rainforest predators. There's The Little Mermaid pop-up book, which is a Disney classic, and this one's great for small hands. And also a really funny book for collectors and for small hands too. Garbage Pail Kids, the ultimate pop-up yearbook. This was a lot of fun. I did that with Joe Simko. So we got a whole line of different pop-up books that have been coming out with Reinhardt Pop-Up Studio at Inside Editions. So all of these books are available online, and they're also available in local bookstores as well. So, be sure to support your local bookstores, everybody.
So, I mean, yeah, I wish I could get some of the stuff from what I grew up with, like the Pac-Man cereal. The best I have is the magnets.
Oh, yeah.
Donkey Kong cereal.
There was one in the 70s that I remember that as a kid, I can't remember. They were these weird little monsters, and they lived in a tree.
Freakies.
Huh? Freakies. Do you know, like, I would, because I think they came with plastic Freakies, and there was one in particular that I don't even remember the cereal being very good, but like I wanted the weird elephant trunk Freaky from the commercial. And I didn't realize, like, they relaunched Freaky several times through like the 80s, I think even into the 90s. It wasn't as cute as the ones from the 70s are truly bizarre. Yeah. Some of those cereals from that time were just like nuts. Well, and the box and the art and everything.
That's how, that was also part of my inspiration growing up is the cereal box art, because, we were, again, allowed to eat the sugary cereals as kids.
Yeah.
And staring at that art while you're eating food, it's like every sense is being used. You got your visuals, you got the taste, you can hear the crunch. So it's like every sense is being absorbed at the same. You can't get that with a film with eating food or music. But cereal, I got it all. And so yeah, the collecting, it's like more so like probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, just the weird oddball Captain Crunch space stuff that he put out.
Yeah.
That he put out, General Mills put out, or Quaker Oats, I should say. So I just collect the artwork of kids, and I always like the licensed cereal stuff that was based on films or television shows.
There were a lot of really very, something would come in, and it, I have a friend who's a big G.I. Joe collector. There was like G.I. Joe cereal. There was, I of course went nuts for C-3POs at the time when the Star Wars thing came in, even though they were the most boring. Like some of these cereals were so boring, but that was all there was for Star Wars because the movies had ended. So it was like, we got cereal. We finally got cereal. And just seeing C-3PO run around in commercials was just made me happy, Well,
that was probably also with the height of the cartoon. There was a Saturday morning cartoon called Droids.
Yeah, Droids and Ewoks. Yeah. And that cartoon was not great, but
well,
it was all we had. Saturday morning was really. There's a part of me that's really kind of sad for kids now because there isn't a time when everyone sits down and you're so excited. You're at home. You're watching cartoons.
Oh yeah.
I would, you'd be waiting for that one. There was a whole roster, and I would watch all the way through till Fat Albert at whatever 11, because that was always like knew it was the end when Fat Albert came on.
right, and then it was maybe the after school special when it started getting action, and then Soul Train, and then
then it's over. Then it's over. Like
I explained that to my 7-year-old. Like, there was a time when I couldn't watch cartoons like anytime I wanted. It was actually like a cool event when like Charlie Brown, Christmas special or Halloween, came on at nighttime. When there was a cartoon at nighttime, it was like wild. It was like all those Rankin, was it Rankin Bass? All those Bass, all of the stop motion things that would come out. Like it was a big deal. Yeah, it was
waiting for all these things to come out, and seeing them at holidays and whatever. It was a different sort of experience. And because there was only, and now like growing up, and when I was a little kid, all I had, during the week, all you had was PBS. It was like, you got Sesame Street, you got Electric Company, you got those things when you're really little. And then as, time, afternoon cartoons were just always amazing. You know, I loved He-Man. I loved, even though I was a little older than I probably should have been watching cartoons. Like I was
No,
one
I
of
was.
those,
Yeah,
I kept it going. Like I never let it go. So
yeah,
like I was collecting Transformers when I was like 12 or 13.
yeah.
And then that was when they came out in 84. And then I was even, I never stopped, you know.
Yeah. I
There's a
can
huge
tell from the
collection
yeah.
back here. Then there's a secret closet back there that has all my vintage stuff in it. But
Nice.
like it always informed me. I creatively, it was always inspiring, and it was I always loved the way there were different, you know, whether it was Hanna-Barbera or any of the other Filmation or whatever, any of those cartoon companies, even though Filmation, like admittedly, they
Oh yeah.
cheated a lot with the
Of course.
animation.
Yeah,
But they were great and fun and silly, and it was a different time.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know. I know. Well, you know, it's just funny because I try to go back and I try to go to YouTube and I'll try to like look up. There's like blocks of like 80s or 90s Saturday morning cartoons with all the commercials in it, and it's super fuzzy because like it's off of a
Hmm.
VHS recorded tape. I'm like, oh man, if it was on. And I try watching it. I'm like, I'm actually fast forwarding to the commercials because the commercials have more nostalgic
That's
and great me. And I fast
those
forward
were the
through the
best.
yeah.
Because they're really some of those cartoons, I can't believe I sat through like all the
Yeah.
video game. There was like Qbert and
Yeah, yeah, the
uh
Super Kid, Donkey Kong and Frogger and uh Pitfall or whatever. Yeah.
I just remember watching them and going, wait a minute, that's not what the character looks like. What is this? What is all this? Because I guess I wanted it to be more like the video
Yeah.
games.
What was it?
But I mean,
No, it's true. You know, because yeah. Well, that's my whole thing is like if ever there was like a film or a show that came out based on something else, I would want it to directly correlate and look exactly like you know what it came
yeah.
from. So I mean, the excitement with Garbage Pail Kids that I get to do now is like we do these theme sets, and you know, we've done an '80s theme set, so it's like, wow, now I can actually not only am I like combining like my love of Garbage Pail Kids, but now I did a Cubert Garbage Pail Kid, I did a Perfect
Oh,
Strangers, I did a Lost Boys,
oh my God.
Garbage Pail Kid. So it's like, you know, I think I've done every favorite show and film as a Garbage Pail Kid that I've had. You know, Quantum Leap, the band The
Oh
Miss
wow.
Guar. I've worked with Guar, and I did a
Yeah.
Miss Guar Garbage Pail Kid. So
Oh my
it's like
God.
everything's like getting all combined and mashed up, but in a great
And
way.
yeah, it's kind of an interesting time because there are so many collaborations now with different brands, and it's like two great tastes that taste great together, right? I mean,
Yeah.
those kind of when you get to put those two things together, it's like this great synergy, and now people are more open, companies are more open to letting their characters do these different things, or
True.
merge or recreate, and I think there's a fan there's a fan audience out there for it.
Well, fandom,
So it,
yeah, fandom is so strong now. It's stronger than it ever was. I mean, you know, again, parents today have children. Well, I don't know about a lot of the parents at my school that my son goes to, but myself, I'll speak for, is like, you know, I have toys lying around. My dad never
yeah,
had toys on a shelf.
yeah.
It's like, you know, the fandom is even stronger with the comic conventions, you know, being so huge. You know, it's not just like, oh, a certain type of person goes to a Comic Con. It's like going to Target. Everyone goes pretty much, you know, if you can,
Yeah.
if you want to, you can go. It's not, there's no stigma to that. So
And I love
the
going
companies see that.
to Comic Cons and or conventions or whatever. The kids going are they're the happiest. That makes me the happiest to see them there, and their family, their parents bringing them, and they're just having so much fun. I know my parents. I think if I had known about them, I think they would have probably begrudgingly taken me. But you know, it's funny now that my parents are older. Like they enjoy that kid stuff more than ever. Like
Oh,
I never knew how much my mom loves Disney World. She
no.
loves going to Disneyland, Disney World. She doesn't care. She only goes for a day and doesn't really ride anything. She wants to go to the shops. I don't know. She just likes being there, you
Yeah,
know? And so it makes me happy that they're kind of in touch more with that child part
yeah,
of them. Because I think it keeps you young. It keeps you more, you know,
absolutely.
it's and it makes you happy. It's
Absolutely.
that happy place. All right, so I'm going to get back into asking questions more about your work and your process. Okay, so
Sure.
could you tell us, like, all right, let's say you're working on a Garbage Pail Kid design. Could you tell us a little bit about your work process from start to finish, like concept to finalized artwork? How does that go? How long does it take?
Okay,
Tell us.
yeah. Yeah, well, once we get the assignment from our director, like, guys, we're working on a new set. Here's the theme, or even if it's not a theme, actually, I'll use an example. So we did a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame set that was sold
Mhm.
online, and I picked Kate Bush.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
so I was like, all right, so I got the go ahead. Go ahead, it's yours, Joe. Go ahead. Sketch is due in a week. Um, it doesn't take a week to come up with a sketch. It
No.
takes a week maybe to think of it, but but I already knew I wanted to pick her, so I combined it, of course, with Stranger Things because she had
Hmm.
a pop hit song, Running Up That Hill. Um, and so it's just a doodle. I just do like a little, thumbnail. They call it a thumbnail sketch because it's the
Hmm.
size of a thumb, a little doodle sketch. I work it out very quickly, and then I'll just transfer it over to a 5x7 size pencil sketch rough that's going to be used to send to Tops for review. Again,
Do you do that? Do you do that? Is that in pencil or do
it's
you do
all
it
pencil.
digitally?
All pencil. Let's see if I can actually dig it up here. Let's see if I can find it.
Because some people, I know I've made switches to sketching more digitally just
Right.
because I'm lazy. Well, not lazy, but it's just an easy. I have one of those Cintiqs where it's like you draw on the screen, and I never like drawing on uh on a, what do you call it, tablet where I'm not seeing the the drawing come out of my hand.
Exactly. Yeah, I know what you mean. And you want the line to be in real time too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I can't. I want to see it coming from my hand. I don't work well unless I'm either drawing from pencil. So you do everything in pencil,
Yeah.
of
So like
course,
here's
right?
the pencil. Here's the make sure
Yeah, running up the hill.
so there's oh man, this light reflection. But anyway, yeah, so that's the
No, we
sketch
can see it.
that's the sketch that I sent. I scan it over here with the scanner, send it over. I have to. I'm just very old school with it. I do work in computers. I do work digitally, but the majority of my work is, believe it or not, it's weird that I can say that I'm a little bit faster with my hand, with pencil and
It
paint.
is. It is. It is. I mean,
So,
the
yeah, I
digital
mean,
stuff. It's a tool to help things, and there is something about the drag of a pencil, the way that color reacts with a paintbrush with other colors
mhm.
on the paper. Like there is something about that real media experience.
Happy
Um,
accidents can happen. It's like you don't have to. Although,
mhm.
although I do remember after working digitally for so long, just doing Control Alt Delete to go back. I'd be
uh,
working in pencil and I'd be like a mess up, and I'm like, wait,
uh,
for a second, I'm
I
like,
do that. I do that all the time when
like,
I'm
why
like
can't I
like
just
right.
press the button?
I'm doing a Godzilla for next year, and I have this weird thing when I cut something or I build it and I take it out. I do the exact same thing. Like there is no control. Like I can't go back
Right,
with
right.
this.
Yeah, so I did that. So I sent the sketch. So the sketch gets approved. Whenever I'm sitting around waiting for the sketch to get approved, I'll just be working on other stuff. Once I
Mhm.
get the approval for the sketch, I would say it takes a day, a full day to do a painting. I do airbrush, so sometimes I have to just like give it maybe an extra day if it's like at nighttime. So
Mhm.
so here's the painting of the Kate Bush running up the hill.
Oh yeah.
This is all airbrush, like all that pink stuff. Um,
Mhm.
she's masked. This
Mhm.
is this is masked with a frisket film. I airbrush it, and then basically I have to like close my studio door and just like wait a few hours
Yeah.
for all the air to go out. So that kills time that I can't be working. But then yeah, just then I'm painting her and the character, and that could be for any scene or any character. It's a solid day, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I get it done maybe two, but that's without life getting in the way, you know,
Yeah.
issues.
That's that's pretty fast.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, I've had rush jobs, like major rush jobs, where I've actually gotten 2 to 3 done a day. Brent Engstrom, one of our other fellow GPK artists, he was cranking out 4 a day. This was during one period of time. For some reason, they crammed like 2 major sets back to back, and we
Yeah.
were all going crazy. So, but again, fortunate to be able to this is what we do. We work at home. We don't have to
Yeah.
go anywhere to a second job or an office somewhere. I mean, I do have family and a dog I gotta walk,
Yeah.
son I have to pick up from school sometimes, but
Do
this
you do you work, what are your hours like during the day? Do you have like a normal work day hours? Do you typically work at night, late? I mean, like everyone has a different
Yeah,
thing.
I love the mornings and I love the night. Morning person,
Really?
and night owl. It's the afternoons where I start dragging and I'm like, time to eat,
Re-
take a nap.
Really?
Not every day though, not every day. Like today I'm up, I would say more so than not, I'm working morning, all afternoon, 9 o'clock ish. I mean, these are breaks, for lunch and dinner or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, once in a while, it's like, I get my most energies up in the morning. Again, I keep bringing up I get up at like 6:50 in the morning now because my son's 7 and he has to go to school.
Yeah,
So we subway him. But I also have a dog. If my wife's taking him to school, I got to walk the dog in the morning. So I'm up. So by
yeah.
8 a.m. or 8:30 a.m., I'm up. I'm drawing here at the drawing table all day, and then
I,
maybe yeah,
I'm like well, I get up super early. You don't want to know, like 4:30.
yeah.
I'm like one of those like super early. I have to do gym in the morning, but once
Okay.
I'm done, like I got to work. And I'm not as now I can work late if I have to, but I found that like at 8 p.m. after that, I can't stay up, but I
Well, yeah.
can get up super early. Like there was a time for a while, I'm much better about it, but there was a time where I didn't know how to do like 2 or 3 books at a time. And I would get up at like 3, and I would always have an office that I like having a separate office than home, but now I currently have a home office.
Okay.
But in New York, I shared a space with other artists, and it was kind of cool because you have other people around, and it's
Of course.
whatever. But sorry about that. But I could get up super early, 2:30,
And you'd
and
work at
go.
three different books at the same time, like all in
Now
one.
I can, yeah, like right now I'm doing, you don't want to know. Last year was terrible. It was like 5 or 6. There was like 5 books and other products added on to,
Yeah.
things. So it was really difficult. I have some help on things, but
Sure.
I didn't know how to do it. Now I've gotten much better. But when you're working on, I don't know if this happens with you, but like when you're working on multiple projects at once, and then the next, and you've gotten used to that intense, like everybody's on top of you. When it's not as much that afterwards, you're like, what's wrong? Why is this the way it is? I'm still like coming down from
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Like this is normal life. But
Sometimes,
yeah,
sometimes you work your best when you're fast and furious, and you got a lot coming in. And it's like um, and when there's nothing happening, just one project, you kind of maybe take your time a little bit. On the other
yeah,
hand, sometimes when everything comes in at once, I almost take a day and do nothing. I'm like, I'm just going to sit here because I have so much to do. I'm just going to do nothing for a day.
yeah. Well, yeah, well, that is I think the positive thing about working for yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
It's hard because you got to hustle all the time. I mean, but it also teaches you to be thinking about what are you doing next, what do you want to do next,
right.
and it's cool. Like I'm at this right now. I have an imprint with Insight, and you know,
Oh, cool.
but of course, I don't feel like I have imposter syndrome. So I kind of like I don't deserve this. Why am I doing it? Like they're gonna
Yeah.
get rid of me any moment. Like that's the crazy stuff when you're working for yourself. And so I'm like, what's the next thing? What am I doing next? But I'm crazy. So like that's my internal
That's awesome.
battle.
No, that's so cool to have that. Because yeah, I mean, as an artist, you want to have your own thing out there. You want to have your own print, and I mean, so Garbage Pail Kids has been so rewarding, and I'm so grateful for it. But I I still know it's not my brand. So I pile on my own. I have personal projects that I'm working on,
Yeah,
and
you
so
do. You do. And like so could you tell us about some of those other projects like what is the most exciting thing that you're working on right now? I know we all know about the GPK. But like what is the most what are some other things that you're working on right now that you're really excited about?
there's a couple. One that I'm working on that it's not going to actually come out until probably in 2 more years. And
Hmm.
that's my own thing with one other writer, but it's myself. Um, but I will talk about the other thing, which is Craniacs, which I am working on with Ira Friedman, who I mentioned earlier is the former VP at Tops. and we put out our own trading card set.
Yeah.
And I mean, but ultimately, it's not just a trading card set. It's an IP, and
Yeah.
it's meant to be for anything and everything. And we are in talks with studios and toy licensing and for everything. And these things take time.
Yeah.
And you get a animation show deal now. It'll be 2 years before anyone sees it. So what we know how to do and what we know we could put out in our industry is trading cards. So that's what we did. We did trading cards
Yeah.
first. And so that's out there
Well, you
now.
get them out there. You get them out there. You get them out. You get eyes on them. You start to tell the story. I just got them. Yep. They're awesome. They're awesome.
So yeah, exactly. Make an awareness of it. We called it Series 0 because it's kind of like a beta,
Yeah.
so that if we do launch Series 1, it'll feel like it's a little bit more elevated to this. But so yeah, I'm excited about that because I get to, I work with Ira, who's professional in the business, legendary.
Yes.
Guys, he knows everybody in the licensing and in the toy landscape, not so much in the animation or television film world. Although he has worked. I mean, he has a career. He worked with Spielberg and Lucas doing their fan clubs.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Wasn't it Bantha Tracks?
What is it?
Wasn't he a part of, like you said, for Lucas? Didn't he work at Bantha Tracks?
I don't even know that name.
It was like that. Bantha Tracks was like, it was a Star Wars fan magazine or newsletter.
Right.
And I think that, I think a friend of mine actually sent me a picture of Ira, who I met like over 10 years ago with another friend of mine who worked at Hasbro.
Oh, cool.
And he introduced me to Ira, and Ira back then was like, we got to do something. And I was like, I don't know how. And then working with Insight, they, of course, Insight Editions, my publisher, they were really excited about this. And so,
oh, that's wild. Oh, cool. I
yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah. I've known for a while, long time. So that project was percolating for a long time. So, okay, I'm going to ask you some quick questions. I know we got to get going here soon. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about the experience of working on the pop-up yearbook. Were you surprised about the process of making a pop-up?
Surprised. Interesting.
Or did it make sense?
I had no idea. I had no idea. I'm actually, I guess I'm surprised that, I mean, well, you'll have to tell me that I did it okay because I was following your lead. I had no idea how this was going to work. So I'm surprised that it went as smooth as it did. Like,
well, you made it smooth because you're number one, you're an amazing artist. You're fast. You roll with the punches. Like, there are some that it's a little bit more difficult to to work with on it. You're getting stuff and saying, you have to be very clear about what you need. And I've learned that over the years. Like, but what was great for me when we were working on this is there was such a fun collaboration, even in the early concept stages where we were just talking about, well, what could we do? What could be on this page? Who would be featured? And what, like that, for example, and I always bring it up, the barf wheel on the
I was
spread.
Gonna do it. Yeah.
On
do you
the
want to
spread
show it or should I?
Oh, I got it. But the barf wheel, and I'll do a video of it too on there, but there's a barf wheel when you pull the tab. Like, I just thought that was the funniest. There it is right there.
Yeah.
But like the idea that we could do that,
I'm so glad you were able to. Yeah.
It's so funny. I never get to do that kind of stuff. And
but the fact that you knew how to do it, like, I could just say, can you make it like sort of barfing in each other's mouth with like a wheel or something? It's like I don't know how to make that work, but you know how to make it work.
Well, that's easy. That's easy stuff. But you figure out, okay, where's a place on the engineering that we can put a wheel, and where would it make sense, with characters, and you don't want to have the characters like just the bottom of their heads being somewhere. So that's easy to do. But that was what was so much fun about this book, and just thinking about what could we have characters do that's silly, and what would they do? That was great. Seeing your sketches and then seeing the color. When we got the color artwork in, I always get excited when I see color art come in, but there was just something extra special about this. Number one, it was so fast. You were really fast at sending it, but like everything exceeded my expectations.
Oh, thanks.
And whenever you see color anything art, I mean, that's always exciting.
Yeah, I mean, well, part of it was a combination of like, okay, am I going to do this in painting form or my very fast the markers over here? And that's what I did.
Yeah.
I did marker rendering with a little bit of colored pencil
Hmm.
to as act as holding lines for certain things, and then splashes of white paint here and there for highlights. Um,
Yeah.
because again, that's my training from the storyboard days of using markers to make these boards look like paintings. I did use paintings for our little interactive cards that
Yeah.
when you take out of the yeah.
Like these.
Oh, there you go, Lincoln Lines. That's the first one I was going to pop up. Yeah.
I
So
just grabbed whatever.
and then there's the
Yeah.
painting,
Oh, that's so, and which I
and that's
thought
the
was
size
so
of a
much.
garbage can.
Yeah. It was
And then
so
I
much
did,
fun.
and then there's the second. And
With
so
that
so I felt
leaky lens.
like I felt like those needed to be the paintings, but the rest of the book, just because again it was a time constraint, issue of getting it done. The marker thing has a flair of being painterly, but it's just so much quicker. So I chose that option.
But
Um,
you can't, it looks incredible. And what's weird about making pop-up artwork that people don't always understand is like you don't make a drawing with a background. Like everything's got to be separate. You've
yeah,
got to make the character separate. Sometimes you got to show the back of the character. Sometimes or just the back of the hand. And there's a lot of things that I can do digitally to fix if I need something. There's
yeah,
always a way to, like if we don't ask an artist to make the back of the head and you see that, somehow, because I always think a little one or any actually fan, any reader of the book, they look at the pop, they turn it around, they're looking at things, and if you
yeah.
don't have the right stuff in the back or whatever, it looks weird. You don't want to see
It-
someone's face on the back of their head. um
no, it makes
and
sense, and that made sense for me, and I think I was expecting that anyway, and it was nothing to do that because when I've done toy designs, sometimes you have to give like
mhm,
a top view and a
turnarounds.
3/4 view, and like this is just a front and back, so it was
Yeah, that's all it is. That's all it
yeah,
is. But it
I
was
love
really
it.
fun. It was really fun. This book was really fun to see it come together. um like I do, like, just to let everyone know, like, what oftentimes when I work with an artist, like I'll do rough sketches, like artist guides, and I'll try to draw the things roughly
Right,
in the size and shape that we need, and then
that's
I hand it off to the artist, and I don't ask them draw exactly what I draw, but something in the shape, something, and I'm very particular if I need it to fit within a space or whatever. And it's
right,
easier that way, I think, because then the art truly fits with the pop-up mechanisms, rather than I took a poster that existed and I chopped it up and
right.
stuck it on a pop-up. It's its own
No,
special thing.
that that way you did it made the most sense to me. It seemed like that's how you should be doing if you if you haven't been doing that like that way already. But yeah, it was great.
we,
Yeah,
we
blobs and shapes, and then I
yeah,
drew those blobs and shapes.
yeah, it just, the whole thing, it was a delight. You were so wonderful to work with. And
Thank you. Yeah.
um one of my favorite, you are one of my favorite collaborators that I've worked with, because it uh I maybe because you take me back to being that,
Okay.
the whole idea of the book took me back. I mean, I'm always like kind of living as a large kid,
Right. Right.
but
Yeah, of course.
this especially, because it harkens to the artwork, always harken to, Mad Magazine, and GPK stuff, like Mad Magazine and Cracked and all that sort of stuff, like that.
Yeah.
Just telling that story with the comic art, it was great. So
Uh,
I had a fantastic experience.
no. Yeah. Yeah. You were super easy to work with too. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Oh, I like that you say that. That's great.
Yeah.
um no, anyways, so we're almost at the end here, I promise. So what, you actually gave some good advice for young people who are interested in professional art career. Do you have any other things that you might want to say for someone who might want to pursue this, a career like yours?
Career in art. Yeah. I mean, well, just keep drawing. Draw what you like. If you're interested in art, obviously, as you get older, if you're going to take courses and classes that require you to take, certain sort of art classes that you're not into, still if you find boring or something, it's still worth doing it. But always do the thing you like. If you just like, you know, a lot of kids that show up at the conventions I do, they're into anime. I was into anime when I was younger, but I don't know really the world of anime. But I say just keep drawing that. Draw the style you like, draw the movies that you like, draw, you know, even copy, you know, from a comic book or a show,
Mhm.
just copy that style. You eventually will get your own style. Draw what you like, because then, you know, that's how you'll be in. That's where you're going to live your most, you know, exciting part of life,
Yeah.
of drawing. Um, and then, you know, find through school or camp or now online like-minded people that are into that same thing you are, and then that's where you'll form good friendships and maybe collaborations, you know, and
Yeah.
work on your own thing. Don't feel the need to uh at an early age or even an older age, if you want to make your own thing, do it out of the excitement of do it because you're excited to do it, not because you're expecting to get something back out of it. You know, like, I'm gonna get the big movie deal, or, you know, if you do enough of it, you know, do enough art that fulfills your excitement, then you'll get something out of it, you know, even if it's as
Mhm.
small as like gaining a new friendships of people that are interested in it.
That's
So
a that's a great way of putting it, because I think that sometimes, you know, everyone's always concerned about, well, is this going to become a big thing? Well, why don't you just make it? Just
yeah.
stop worrying about all that other stuff. Make
Mhm.
it, continue to make it. I always tell young people when they're talking to me, like, just draw all the time. Just make
Yeah.
stuff all the time. You
Yeah.
know, don't worry about, is this style right? Is this what? Just keep doing it. I remember
Exactly.
myself, like, copying comic book covers because I wanted to draw something. I didn't understand at the time, like perspective. And, you know, like I put my hand out like
Right.
that. But like, I remember looking at Spider-Man pictures and like his hand was out like this. And I was like, wait a minute, his hand is actually bigger than it is. And what happens to your arm when it comes off this? Like,
Mhm.
learning that stuff from copying.
I'm just copying it.
Um,
But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, you know? So
yeah, I mean, that's how we start to build out that knowledge.
yeah,
Everyone does. So, well, Joe, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to add
this
to?
is great. Let's work on some in the future, Matthew.
Okay, let's please. No, listen, anytime. This was fantastic. This was a great, I was great talking to you. It's always great talking to you. So thank you. And
My pleasure.
that's pretty much it. Well, thank you so much, Joe. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Matthew. Thanks.
All righty.
Appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye. All right. So
Wait,
Joe,
yeah, we're still on, right? Okay.
we're still on, but I'm gonna stop the recording.
Yeah.